Hello there, and welcome to another event in the Amateur Marble Association's inaugural tournament. With just 4 events down and 4 events to go, we've just barely scraped over that halfway point as we make our way into our 5th event. Before we do that, we'll take a quick look at the current leaderboard with Wideout still on top, though Locust, Rainforest, Typhoon and Martian all potentially could overtake in this event should they score enough points and keep Whiteout at bay. What is the event? Well, let's take a quick look. This is the Target Takeoff, which will see marbles careening down a long tubular track only to hit a ramp at the bottom, sending them high into the air, after which they will attempt to land in one of 7 targets. Any of the 4 clear targets scores them a single point, any of the blue scores them 2 points, and the green is for a maximum 3 points. The winning marble of each round moves on. With that said, we'll move into the first round between Splatter and Mallard. Splatter making its way down the track now. Will they be able to score? And no, Splatter gonna hit that 3-point mark, but doesn't pull up quick enough, and that's gonna leave Splatter out the edge. Can Mallard do any better? Mallard coming down now, and Mallard is gonna score 3 points. What a nice effort there as Mallard goes way too high and short, but off a bounce is actually able to recover. So Mallard will move on to that quarterfinal in the top 8. Moving on now to our second round, we have Amber taking on Paladin. Amber currently heading down the track. Oh, but bouncing off that middle divider isn't going to pick up any points. Paladin now coming down, just needs to score anything in order to move on. Can Paladin do it? Yes, Paladin bounces around and ultimately will rest in the 2-point region. Initially lands in the 3-point area, but after bouncing around will settle for 2. However, any score would have been enough as Paladin moves on and Amber is eliminated. Heading now into our third round, we have Ripple taking on Honeycomb. Who will come out on top as Ripple is now making its way down the track? What will Ripple be able to do? Ooh, Ripple bouncing out of that 3-point area, but will still pick up a single point, and sometimes that could be all you need. We'll have to see how Honeycomb responds. Will Honeycomb be able to score more than a single point here? Honeycomb misses far out to the right, and Ripple will move on. Honeycomb does come up short, but we saw with Mallard that can sometimes be your best friend, as Mallard bounced into the 3-point. Ripple will move on though, as Honeycomb does not do the same. And we now have Rainforest and Frostbite. Rainforest going to go long and fast, and that is not what you want, as you want to be able to slow down enough to pull up and stay in one spot. Can Frostbite now correct that mistake? Yes! Frostbite gonna hit that middle left section, but after bouncing off is gonna rest, just barely staying in the 2 points, and that will be enough for Frostbite to move on. As we now look at the next round, Amber and Spearmint. Amber gonna come hard off that middle divider and won't pick up any points. Can Spearmint secure any score at all in order to move on? Here he comes, and yes, Spearmint going to nail that 1-point area. Doesn't bounce around at all, and that will be a comfortable victory for Spearmint, eliminating Amber and moving on to the next round. Coming up now, we have another heat, and it will be Typhoon taking on Rosie. Typhoon heading down first, coming out of the end of the tube there, and Typhoon gonna bounce out of that 3-point area. So far, we're yet to see anyone comfortably land in there. Mallard, the only 3-point scorer, bounced in. Can Rosie prove that wrong? Rosie heading in now, and Rosie does just that! Rosie, no worries whatsoever, lands directly in the 3-point range and sticks the landing. Rosie will very easily move on and made that seem effortless. Typhoon going to be eliminated there. So we're now moving on to the next heat, and it will be Whiteout versus McCall. Whiteout heading down the track now, and Whiteout, just after Rosie also does so, will score 3 points right off the bat. That's got to put a lot of pressure on McCall, who has to score 3 points here to stay, and McCall will only score 1. So Whiteout will be able to move on, as McCall does score, but not enough to pick up the win. We're now going into the final heat here, and it's going to be Milky Way taking on Locust, who will take that last spot in the quarterfinals. Milky Way going to launch nicely into that first right section, picking up 1 point. What will Locust be able to do? Locust needs to score big here to stay alive, and Locust will not do it, bouncing off that back divider. Milky Way will join the other 7 winners in the next round of this event. So, all these marbles still competing will pick up some points for the leaderboard, but who will pick up even more? Frostbite gonna come down now in the first matchup, and that 1 point could be enough, but if Spearmint is able to score big, Frostbite will be eliminated. Spearmint coming down now, and Spearmint does not score. Frostbite will move on to the next round, as Spearmint will just pick up the 2 points for the leaderboard. Heading into the next matchup of the quarterfinals here, we have Wideout taking on Ripple. Wideout is going to launch first, and Wideout will score just 1 point, almost picking up 3, and then almost picking up 2. Bounces out of both those sections. Ripple needs to score here to move on. What will Ripple do? Oh, Ripple goes short, possibly trying to bounce in like we saw Mallard do earlier, but goes a bit too deep for that and will not score. Heading now into the third round of the quarterfinals, Rosie coming down now, and Rosie back to back will hit 3 points. Rosie looking unstoppable right now, and there is not much Paladin can do here. Paladin has to score 3 points to move on. Can Paladin do it? Paladin coming down and will only score 1 point. So, Rosie moving on. Completely flawless thus far. Paladin will be eliminated from this event. So, heading into the last round now of the quarterfinals, that will be Milky Way taking on Mallard. Milky Way coming down first and will nicely rest in the 2 point range, going high off the ramp, almost scoring 1 point, but has enough momentum to carry into that 2 point range. Mallard needs a 2 or higher to keep alive, and Mallard will go short, trying to bounce into the 3 point section again, but just goes too short and will be eliminated. Milky Way moving on as we get into the semi-finals here. Whiteout coming down first against Rosie. Whiteout gonna score 1 point. In a usual round, that could sometimes be enough, but with the form that Rosie is on, that might not do it. Can Rosie go 3 for 3 on hitting that middle section? Rosie comes down, and Rosie does it! Oh my goodness, Rosie gonna pick up 3 points again and comes through with another win. Rosie will go to the final, while Whiteout will go to the third place match against whoever loses this next matchup of the semis. And that matchup will happen now between Frostbite and Milky Way. Frostbite coming down first. What can Frostbite do? Frostbite scores 3 points, so we're really starting to see things pick up now. Frostbite looking very comfortable now to make the finals. Can Milky Way put up a fight? Or will Frostbite be moving on? Milky Way gonna bounce off that divider between the sections. So, Milky Way will go into that third place match against Whiteout, while Frostbite will be taking on Rosie, though that does seem like an uphill battle. We're gonna kick off the last 2 rounds with the third place match between Whiteout and Milky Way. Whiteout coming down now, and Whiteout will just barely miss that 3 point zone. Lands in it initially and just barely has too much speed, only picking up 1 point. Can Milky Way capitalize on that as Milky Way comes down now? Milky Way gonna bounce out. Oh no! Milky Way scores nothing. Look at this. Milky Way lands in the 1 point section, then lands in the 2 point section. Isn't able to stick the landing in either of them, so Milky Way will take 4th, while Whiteout will sit in 3rd place for this event. Here it is now, the final between Rosie and Frostbite. Rosie coming down first is yet to score anything but 3, And Rosé won't pick up any points, goes too short, and will not pick up anything. Oh my gosh. Rosé leaves the door wide open for Frostbite, who will capitalize on that perfectly, taking out 3 points. What a finish to this event by Frostbite. Goes back to back on the 3-pointers, and Frostbite will be the champion of this event. Rosé taking out second place. What will that do to the leaderboard here? As we see Whiteout will stay on top, Frostbite jumps all the way up to second. Just 2 events ago, Frostbite was down the bottom, and after silver and gold back-to-back, Frostbite is a real contender here. Rosé also going to move up from the bottom to 10th, and Milky Way going to pick up some points in order to stay alive in this fight. And so that is where we will leave it in the 5th event of the Amateur Marble Association's inaugural tournament. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching, and I hope you stay tuned for what is to come, as this is really starting to prove to be an exciting back half of this tournament. For now though, I'll leave it at that. I hope you've enjoyed. Good night.